Davila. Johnson. Left-footed shot. Alexa Gall with a beautiful diving save. Maybe one for the cameras, but it did look like she needed to get off the ground a little bit more than she's used to.
Well, I just get chills when they lay out and then they hold on to the ball. They don't punch it or they, bat it away. They hold on to it all the way down to the ground. Love that. That's fantastic. So,
well, coming from a former player.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Texas here doing everything right so far. They're on top 1-0. Donyak responsible for the goal. Texas gearing up for their first substitution as well. Kirsten Burkhold looks to be the forward coming on for either Leah Fortune, Zarnagar, or maybe Hannah Higgins. Rough challenge there from the defender, Ashley Fryer. Zarnagar will be the one coming off the field, and Burkhold, who did score in that game against UTSA, will have a chance to maybe add on another one here for Texas. Headed on to Burkhold, her first touch right out of the gates. Just a little bit too high for the incoming Texas player. Church with the right decision that time, and USC pushes up the field. Johnson in the middle. And I think Fortune was expecting the run from Hannah Higgins. Instead, Mia Bruno, the freshman, back to take control. Johnson up to the top. The substitute taken down. Courtney Garcia hits the pitch, but the referee calls play on, and Texas pushes upfield. Good vision from Hannah Higgins on the far side to see the opposite side of Alexi Harris's run. But Fryer makes the run, and Campanelli intercepts, and Texas gets control back. Oh, a nice through ball played here for USC. Garcia with the shot. It's deflected, and Johnson had a wide open look if she would have gotten there. Instead, it goes out for a goal kick.
A tremendous through ball. It was just perfect, and that's something that Coach Petroselli talked about, is playing a little tighter in the back so those seams don't seem so big. I mean, that right side seam was gigantic. They really couldn't get over there. So when they lose the ball, the back needs to stay a little bit tighter so it's hard to get that ball through on the ground.
Well, Jessica, halfway through the first half here, and it's sort of the break point that you could really make a good observation on how these two teams are doing so far. Texas obviously up 1-0, but they still look a little shaky on the back line. USC has a lot of good through balls, as it looks like Elizabeth Eddy's making the run here by herself. I do want to get your thoughts on that, as this one's deflected out of bounds for the corner kick.
I think 1v1 defending has been pretty great so far. Erica Campanelli against Elizabeth Eddy on that outside there. Done a great job with her. But when they push forward, if they lose the ball, that's when they're susceptible to the counterattack and when they're really disorganized. So their transition just has to be much faster on defense.
Garcia with the corner kick for USC, headed out by the tall head of Lucy Keith. And this volley coming in from the midfielder, Carly Butcher, is just left of the goal post, and Texas will get the goal kick here with just under 20 minutes to go here in the first half. Another couple of substitutions to give out to you. Amanda Lisberger coming on for Hannah Higgins over on the right side, and it looked like Morgan Morrow for USC will also see some action. Looks like Kate Nicholson will come in the next substitution as well, maybe on a defensive side of things. Lisberger with her first touch. It's a joust with Allie Harrison on the left side. Johnson in the middle. Burkhold challenging. USC calmly playing some defense here as they boot the ball downfield. Longhorns looking for a chance. Fortune with the step over, pushed from behind, but the referee points towards the ball, and it'll go back up the opposite way.
I think you're going to see a lot of PKs called, though, for Fortune this year. She does a good job of dribbling in the box, and she's so hard to dispossess. It was a little fortunate there for USC because I think that tackle was from behind. They probably got all ball, though, and that's why the ref let it play. But Fortune does a good job of dribbling inside the box. So I think we're probably going to see some PK opportunities for Texas this year.
Well, there weren't many protests from any of her teammates, and Petroselli on the sideline didn't quite raise enough of a fuss. I know last year I don't think Texas had but maybe 1 or 2 PKs after they had multitudes of them in 2008, and we even joked about that just a little bit. And this first foul is called against USC, it looks like, for making the challenge on Texas in the midfield, so the Longhorns will have another set-piece opportunity here in the middle.
These are a little bit tricky, these set pieces from so far out. You kind of want to dump it into the box somewhere, but they're really hard to score on when they're that straight on. And it's going to be one of those things where you find that little hole between Church and the UT players.
Oh, it's a brilliant cross in from Peterson. Campanelli just kicks this one out of bounds to stop the counterattack. USC with the throw-in. Fryer. Now it's Eddy. Again, good defense from Campanelli. That's why she's probably listed on the preseason All Big 12 team, is because really she's the rock at the back. She's that sole anchor, and she's the senior as well, the captain, to go along with it.
Well, she's not just technical and not just fit. She's really smart. So she doesn't just dive in and kind of fall for Elizabeth Eddy's little tricks.
Header here in no man's land. Alexa Gall off her line, touches it out. It trickles outside the 18-yard area, though, and she'll have to boot it downfield. Bad touch there from Cummins in the middle, and she gives it up. Butcher. Campanelli judges that one perfectly. Burkhold keeps it in bounds. Running down the touchline. Sort of shielded there by Fryer. And it'll come right back to her. This time she has a little bit more room. Fortune doing all sorts of running up at the top right now, and she looks to be a little winded, although, coming off that injury from last year, she's really performed above expectations for what Texas was expecting right out of the gates.
Well, sure, and she's also still young. She's a redshirt freshman. She's still young. I think she has a lot of adjusting still to do to the college game to be a continuous threat up top. So I think you're going to see only good things from her in the future for Texas.
Donyak takes a seat on the bench, as you just saw on your computer screen. Alicia Ortiz makes her first appearance and gets her first touch right out of the gates. This one goes out of bounds. Ortiz, a senior on the team from Highland Village, had a lot of action last year in that midfielder's role to give really those Donyaks and Cummins the breathers that they need.
She's been a good utility player for Texas the last 4 years. She's come up top. She's kind of fit into really whatever formation they've been doing that year. So she's a good little spark off the bench for Coach Petroselli. That's one that you want to keep an eye on because she also has a lot of speed.
Kate Nicholson came in on the far right side for Texas for Sophie Campisi and made the run up the field. It was taken out by USC, and she almost left a big gap there on the far side. Fortune will have some help. Nice vision to see Ortiz making the run. She's one-on-one with the keeper. Owen Church does a good job coming off of her line to make the sliding save, and she gobbles it up quickly. Texas won't have a second chance.
Well, that's tough when you come right off the bench and really your first touch is a through ball for a shot on goal. I mean, that's a lot of pressure. You've been sitting on the bench for 30 minutes now. You haven't had a touch. You're kind of, cooled down a little bit. So that's a tough one to come in and try and put that one away for Alicia Ortiz. Probably just should have done a little better with her first touch. It was wide. She probably should have touched it more central. So she had a little bit better angle.
Texas with all the chances here so far. 13 minutes to go in the first half. They're up 1-0. Eddie trying some fancy footwork, but she's double-teamed in the corner. And Ortiz with a nice little back heel there to get it out of her reach, and clearance is made by Campanelli. Fortune to Ortiz. Davila in the middle. Lexi Harris on the challenge will be grabbed from behind. We had a good view of that shirt pull right there. The referees missed it, but they will get the throw-in. Oh, and that's a late challenge from Johnson there, and I think she probably should have been called for the foul as Peterson goes down, but the throw-in will go Texas' way. One name we haven't heard very much is Davila for USC in that midfield area. You would expect her to be getting a lot of touches, and especially since she's one of the top players for USC dating back to last year.
When she started out on the left side, so I think they're trying to move her a little bit more in the middle to be more involved. They weren't getting her the ball as much out there, so hopefully they're trying to run the play through her, but they can't seem to connect with her. Texas is doing such a good job of just getting pressure on the ball that they can't really connect their passes in the midfield.
Ortiz to Fortune, just out of her reach. Lisberger making the run.
That's a good example right there. They were just all over Courtney Garcia on that right side. She couldn't get a good touch and keep the ball.
Ortiz touch lets her down again. It's Johnson up top, who's now moved into more of a striker role after playing in the midfield when she first came onto the pitch.
Well, now that they're down a goal, I think they do feel like they might need to press a little bit more and kind of cheat her up forward. Because right now, Eddie and Garcia on the outside just aren't getting high enough for them to have numbers across the Texas back line. So I think Johnson's trying to fill that out a little bit.
Flick on here from Harris. Texas gets the throw in again. Around that 10-minute mark for the first half. The score has not changed since Donyak's header back in the 18th minute. It's 1-0. Fortune has help on her left. She'll take it herself, and the touch lets her down as she runs herself out of bounds, and it'll be a goal kick.